Artificial intelligence has been the subject of fascination for scientists and filmmakers since time immemorial. In fact, examples of AI can be found in some of the earliest movies, like the 1927 German expressionist film Metropolis. The AI found in movies are always an expression of modern sentiment and technology at the time the given film was made, and as such can be thought of as an extension of the sci-fi genre itself. In the same way that sci-fi reflects more the time in which it was made than any future that it depicts, depictions of AI are always a reflection more of humanity than of actual robotics. We can see these themes in countless films. Some of my favorites are Blade Runner 2049, Ex Machina, and Her. If you've noticed, a common thread between my favorite AI-centric movies is that the artificial intelligence in each of these films is written as a romantic interest for the main character. I find these stories about love and robotics really compelling.
Would you like your OS to have a male or female voice?
Female, I guess.
Hello, I'm here.
Oh. Hi.
Hi. How you doing?
But that's not what this video essay is about. What I really want to do here is look at some of the big differences and similarities in how AI is portrayed across films. I really want to understand how and why AI characters behave the way they do in these movies, and what those characters' behavior says about society at the time each movie was made. For the sake of simplicity, my exploration will focus on comparing and contrasting two really famous movie AIs, HAL from Stanley Kubrick's 2001 A Space Odyssey, and Ava from Ex Machina. HAL 9000 is one of the major characters in Stanley Kubrick's sci-fi classic 2001 A Space Odyssey. He's one of the most iconic movie AIs, and it's unlikely that an AI character can be written today without some comparison being drawn between them and HAL. HAL serves as the main antagonist of the movie, and his soft, calm voice still sends chills down my spine.
I'm sorry, Dave. I'm afraid I can't do that.
There are a few things that make HAL unique. One of the first things that stand out to you as a viewer is his now iconic appearance. HAL's hardware isn't really shown until the end of the film. Over the majority of the movie, he's shown as this all-seeing eye. The fact that HAL's eye was made from a Nikon fisheye camera lens has real implications in the story of the movie. HAL can see you, always, a truly chilling concept. This links elements of surveillance culture to that of artificial intelligence, and that link is hard to shake. HAL reminds us of the terrifying future we may be irreversibly approaching, where AI-based surveillance governs the lives of millions. You might assume that HAL's lack of a body makes him less scary. After all, it's usually the presence of an imposing figure like the Terminator that scares us. I'd argue the opposite, however. HAL's lack of a body makes him feel that much more powerful. He doesn't feel like a being in the same way you and I do, but he feels almost like an intangible god figure whose omnipresence makes him almost all-powerful on the ship. The concept that the lives of the astronauts in the Discovery 1 lies completely in the hands of this machine is frankly terrifying. It makes me think of the increasing responsibility that we're giving to technology and the important decisions we're already allowing things like deep learning algorithms to make. Technologies like self-driving cars tend to fill us with wonder and amazement, but they also scare people. I think that fear is shown very clearly in HAL. That comparison creates a nice segue into my next discussion, HAL's culpability. At the end of the day, HAL's just a robot. To what extent could we say that HAL's actions constitute murder? When HAL's eventually shut down, have the astronauts just killed him? These questions have real-world counterparts. If a self-driving car kills a passenger or a pedestrian, who's at fault? Is it the driver, the manufacturer? These are difficult questions to answer, and many philosophers have tried. Here's my shot at an answer. I think culpability has to be seen as a qualitative concept. It's hard to make generalizing laws and statements before we've really seen the nature of artificial intelligence in the real world. In the case of HAL, we have to think about the extent to which he was acting of his own accord. How much of his behavior was due to a fault in programming or a glitch? And more importantly, did HAL know he was doing anything wrong? If the answer to that question is no, and I think it is, then HAL shouldn't really be considered a murderer. His deactivation shouldn't be considered murder either. He's really good at seeming scared, but I don't think HAL is really capable of feeling fear. I don't see why that would have been programmed into him.
My mind is going. I can feel it. I can feel it. My mind is going.
Now, Ava is a different story. Like I mentioned before, Ex Machina is one of my favorite AI-centric stories. The relationship between love and artificial intelligence is a source of endless fascination for me, and I think it plays a really important role in this movie. The fact that Ava is a beautiful woman isn't just happenstance, it's a huge part of her story and her role in the film. Ex Machina follows a programmer who's been tasked by his boss with running a Turing test on Ava. He has to find out if she really thinks in the same way a human being does. There's another kind of test at play here, however, from a meta point of view, and that's the Bechdel test. The Bechdel test is a measure of female representation in fiction, and its conditions can simply be defined as: does the work feature at least two women who talk to each other about something other than a man? Ex Machina decidedly fails this test, but I would argue that it does so on purpose. Ava represents the product of a field dominated almost totally by white men. It's not a condemnation of this film that it fails the Bechdel test. It's a condemnation of the industry it portrays. I think Ava embodies a completely different side of artificial intelligence from what HAL does. She's basically human. Over the course of the film, both Caleb and we, the audience, become more and more convinced that Ava really does think as we do. I think she does so in a way that goes deeper than HAL. Ava's not scary, we feel sorry for her. Even at the end when she escapes, we're not chilled by her in the same way we are by HAL. I think this all stems from Ava being a woman. Both the audience and Caleb project our biases onto her. We see her as a damsel in distress, someone that needs saving. Ava understands these biases and twists them to her advantage. Somehow, after all that, it's still hard to see her as an antagonist. Now comes the question of Ava and culpability. I think this best shows how Ava really is the opposite of HAL. She seems so emotionally intelligent, so human, that we can't help but feel like she knows what she's doing when she kills Nathan. I think her actions could fall under self-defense. She was being held captive even though Nathan created her. As an extension of that, I think if someone were to disconnect Ava, that would be murder. I think she feels fear in a way that HAL doesn't, in a way that's ultimately more human than machine. To conclude, I think that HAL and Ava show two really different kinds of AI. I think they both represent something really different, and that comes across clearly in how their characters are written. HAL is a cold, calculating being that embodies our fear of technology. Ava is a being whose actions in the end reveal her to be just as calculating as HAL, but our opinions of her as an audience reveal subconscious and implicit biases that we all hold, and that really makes her fascinating. In the end, both these characters are great, And AI continues to be a tool that sci-fi films can use to make us see and understand things in a different way. I'm eager to see how artificial intelligence is portrayed in movies in the future, and even more eager to see how it develops in the real world. AI is constantly evolving as we are and as our movies are, and the future remains a fascinating mystery. Thanks for watching, and remember, stay curious.